The zenith of ancient Egyptian civilization occurred during the New Kingdom period, 1550 to 1070 BC, under the rule of famed pharaohs such as Tutankhamun, Thutmose III, and Ramses II, who is often identified as the pharaoh involved in the Exodus story. During this era, Egypt's power and territorial reach extended from its heartland along the Nile, across the northern Sinai, and into the lands of Canaan, now comprising parts of modern Israel, Jordan, and Syria, along with the West Bank and Gaza. However, the assassination of Ramses III in 1155 BC marked the beginning of Egypt's decline. Over the following centuries, a combination of prolonged drought, economic troubles, and the incursions of foreign adversaries gradually eroded the once mighty empire's strength and influence. Ramses III, often regarded as the last of the great pharaohs, governed Egypt for 31 years during a period fraught with challenges, including the disruptive invasions by the Sea Peoples. This group, whose exact origins remain unclear, is generally thought to have been an assorted collection of refugees from the Western Mediterranean, driven eastward by drought and famine in search of new territories to settle and control. Historical records indicate that Egypt faced assaults from these maritime invaders during the reigns of Meremptah and Ramses III. In 1177 BC, Ramses III led the Egyptian navy to a decisive victory against a second major assault by the Sea Peoples, an event he commemorated on the walls of his temple and tomb complex at Medinet Habu. However, his triumphs were overshadowed by internal strife. Despite his military successes, Ramses III's reign was ultimately marred by betrayal within his own court. A secondary queen, motivated by jealousy, orchestrated an assassination plot against him, leading to his death by a fatal stab to the neck in 1155 BC, as confirmed by CT scans of his mummy. The assassination of Ramses III heralded a decline from which Egypt never fully recovered, marking a pivotal turning point in its history. This shift signaled the end of an era, and the once dominant empire began to fade, gradually losing its previous stature in the ancient world. During the 12th century BC, a catastrophic event known as the Bronze Age collapse devastated the Mediterranean region. This period marked the rapid and complete downfall of several kingdoms, including the Mycenaeans in Greece and the Hittites in Anatolia, whose civilizations crumbled, cities and cultural practices were destroyed, and their written languages vanished, largely due to invasions by the Sea Peoples and other simultaneous disasters such as drought and famine. Egypt, under the leadership of Ramses III, initially withstood these invasions, managing to stave off the Sea Peoples longer than its contemporaries. However, as historian Eric Klein points out, Egypt eventually succumbed to the same widespread afflictions impacting the region. A severe mega-drought that persisted for over 150 years, coupled with the breakdown of the once prosperous Mediterranean trade network, ultimately led to Egypt's decline as well. The Late Bronze Age saw the collapse of expansive international trade networks that had previously flourished. Following this period, Egypt grappled with severe food shortages and internal political conflicts, leading to a stark decrease in its influence as a global power. After the reign of a particularly notable pharaoh, Egypt was governed by a series of less effective rulers, concluding with the last ruler of the New Kingdom around 1070 BC. Archaeological evidence from these times helps explain Egypt's rapid decline. One ruler from this era showed signs of possible smallpox, evident from scars on his mummy. Although it is not confirmed that this disease caused his death, a significant quarantine was enacted after his burial, halting access to the Valley of the Kings for 6 months, possibly indicating an attempt to manage a smallpox outbreak. Additionally, during this time, Egypt's control over critical mining regions in the Sinai Peninsula waned. The last records of Egyptian rulers at these mining sites coincide with a general withdrawal from these areas and neighboring regions by 1140 BC. This retreat marks a significant contraction of Egyptian territorial control and resource access. Under the rule of a pharaoh at the end of the 12th century BC, Egypt faced a crisis of tomb robberies due to dire economic conditions and diminished respect for royal authority. Thieves openly looted the burial sites of past rulers, seeking gold and valuables. This disturbing trend of grave theft marked the start of a prolonged era of vulnerability for royal tombs. During a subsequent ruler's reign, the situation became so perilous that authorities were compelled to relocate some of the royal mummies to protect them from further desecration. After the New Kingdom period, Egypt's decline as a sovereign nation was marked by successive foreign dominations. The first wave of foreign rulers were the Libyans from the western borders of Egypt. They established the 22nd dynasty with Shoshenq I, a pharaoh of Libyan descent, at its helm. In an attempt to rekindle the splendors of past pharaohs like Ramses III, Shoshenq I embarked on military campaigns against the kingdoms of Israel and Judah during the 10th century BC. As the political landscape continued to destabilize, the Nubians, or Kushites from the south, seized the throne in the 8th century BC. They ruled Egypt as the 25th dynasty, maintaining control for nearly a century until Assyrian forces displaced them. This shift underscored the end of Egypt's era as an independent entity, leading to a succession of foreign powers taking control, including the Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, and eventually Islamic rulers. The last notable era of Egyptian prominence was under the Ptolemaic dynasty, which began in 305 BC with Macedonian Greek rulers following Alexander the Great's conquests. The most renowned Ptolemaic pharaoh, Cleopatra VII, made significant cultural contributions and established a grand Hellenistic capital in Alexandria. However, the defeat of Cleopatra and her ally Mark Antony by Roman Emperor Octavian, later Augustus, in 30 BC marked the end of the Ptolemaic rule and the last of the ancient Egyptian dynasties. Egypt was then incorporated into the Roman Republic, permanently ending its role as an independent and powerful ancient civilization.